Hello, Jackie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How has been your Easter?
Easter has been good.
Welcome to Entrepreneurship Couch.
Thank you.
Jackie, we're not going to take much of your time. We just thought maybe we could take this opportunity to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on the general economy, but more particularly on the SMEs sector and informal sector.
All right. Just to say, I think as has been the trend worldwide, globally, it's been expected that the impact of COVID-19 will lead to economies sinking into a kind of recession, because you take note that there's been little or no economic activity taking place, and this is felt much. The impact is felt much more negatively on small to medium enterprises because of the structures generally, because they are small businesses. They don't have much capital or spare cash set aside to take them through this phase. And definitely, I think it will be much more difficult for most of the SMEs to get back on their feet after the COVID-19 period is over.
Okay. Jackie, I've been reading on other countries. South Africa has come up with a solidarity fund. The USA has come up with about 2 trillion disaster aid fund. And quite recently, I was reading about Japan coming up with about 2 billion fund that has been set aside to support their economy as well as the business people. Do you think our own government has done enough to make sure that they've supported not only the SMEs, but the business community in general?
I think definitely, if you look at the way other countries have been going and the impact that this has, like for the past 2 weeks, there's been no business activity. It means that no income is being generated, and definitely there is some sort of support which is needed from the government to the informal sector, to the small to medium enterprises in the form of a bailout. And I think it's something that I've mentioned several times before, that the government needs to consider coming up with a bailout plan or some sort in order to cushion small to medium enterprises in this season where they're not making any income, but you see that overheads are still due and payable, such as salaries, rentals, etc. So there is need for the government to come up with something, a package which will cushion small to medium enterprises or business people in general against the effects of COVID-19.
Now that you're talking about the government, besides maybe coming up with a fund, do you think government could have taken an initiative and pronounced something in terms of either taxes and maybe payment of rentals? Because I'm thinking if a small SME guy is going to continue paying rentals, he's going to continue maybe paying salaries, he's going to find himself or herself in a very difficult situation. What other initiatives?
Yes, indeed. It means that maybe for the period there's need to pronounce a relaxation of tax payments and other payments due, such as rentals and salaries. But that would then have to be coupled by government chipping in to pay some fund or some form of payment to those employees who can no longer get their salaries, because obviously there hasn't been any economic activity taking place. The business has not earned any money and is therefore not able to meet its overheads. So still, government cannot run away from its obligation to come up with some sort of payment or some sort of bailout in the circumstances, because a lockdown, I do not think it can be successful or it can be realistic or practical without taking into consideration that business activity has been affected, and therefore government needs to intervene and provide some sort of cushioning or some sort of bailout to business people and to the affected people.
And maybe, Jackie, what's your input in terms of an extension of the lockdown? Because now people are saying, whilst we understand that there is a likelihood that we may lose lives, but now most of the people, including SMEs, are faced with a situation where either they are worried about the COVID-19 or they are faced with outright hunger. Do you think the lockdown should continue being extended?
I think from practical, from a health point of view, I think it would be wise to extend the lockdown, because as you can see, there's not been enough testing going around. So if we open it up too quickly, it means that we may end up with having huge numbers as those which are being witnessed in USA, Spain, Italy. And with our facilities, we definitely cannot afford an outbreak of such a magnitude. Therefore, to err on the side of caution, I think, yes, indeed, it will be quite wise and prudent to extend the lockdown period whilst we increase the numbers being tested, especially those who have been exposed and those who have had history of travel to areas where there's COVID outbreak. Because if we do rush to open, yes, we indeed want to get back to economic activity, but we may risk then locking down later on again after the outbreak has maybe gone out of hand, as we have seen in other countries. So I think to err on the side of caution and extend, but take into consideration the issues that I've raised, that there cannot be any lockdown without government intervention in terms of bailout, especially to the vulnerable sectors of society, those who live from hand to mouth, the informal traders we see on the street. They are definitely affected and they need a cushion directly from the government for them to just be able to secure food on the table for the day, not even for anything fancy. And then we have SMEs, informal traders and others in that category. Even the big businesses, they need maybe some sort of tax breaks or some cushion of some sort from government in order for them to resuscitate operations after the lockdown.
Recently, we have had a scenario where Mbare Msika, where a lot of vendors, vegetable vendors, normally trade their vegetables from, it was closed and it has been opened again. And a number of people have argued that it's likely to end up being an epicenter if ever we're going to experience challenges in terms of COVID-19. What's your view in terms of the reopening of such a place?
I think Mbare Msika ought to have remained open in as much as we have TM, Pick and Pay, OK, and the like open, because you see, those are part of the essential things that are required. We can't do away with vegetables, we can't do away with those perishables, and if they are not sold, then it means the loss is monumental and they cannot recover. It won't be easy for them to recover. However, I think there should be adequate measures put in place. The same way we get at the big supermarkets, a certain number of people is allowed inside at a time. There is sanitization before you enter, and also they take your temperature, and also the measures for social distancing. If that has not been put in place, then there is a real need for us to worry about the goings on at Mbare Msika. I think they should only have opened it coupled with the relevant measures to make sure that they minimize the outbreak or the spread of COVID-19 in Mbare and spreading into other areas.
Thanks very much, Jackie. My last question then would be, there's been mixed feelings in terms of others saying there are going to be indeed opportunities after COVID-19. Others are saying businesses are going to shut down. What's your final analysis?
I'm forever the optimist, and I think whenever there are problems, there's always an opportunity. We see that we, as a country, we've been affected. Local industry has been greatly affected by globalization, in terms of the fact that if you look at most of the trading or the business going on in Zimbabwe, it's all to do with import. And local business people are challenged now to come up with homegrown products, with homegrown solutions to substitute those imports. Because after COVID-19, import travel is going to take a different outlook, because you see the spread of COVID-19 was exacerbated or accelerated by the fact that we have been reduced into a global village, and it's easy to travel from one country to the other, and that's how easy it was for this disease to spread so quickly across the globe. So it means that countries are going to be more careful about who they let into their borders, and there are going to be more restrictions in terms of travel and imports and the like. And as you can see right now, because all the borders are closed, it means that imports are going to be reduced. And I think I would want to challenge Zimbabwean business people to now start coming up with local products, innovation that is going to replace whatever they would import. Because in Zimbabwe, mostly what people call entrepreneurship is just a matter of importing things from China, importing things from other countries, and reselling locally. But now they need to think deeper than that and come up with local products, be innovative, replace imported goods with local ones. And in this way, our local economy can grow. And it will really go a long way into balancing our balance of payments, and having us as a country import less than we export.
Jackie, thanks very much for your time. We still have got another date where we're supposed to discuss on the SMEs, but maybe before we can maybe talk about that, the next time that we are going to meet, what are going to be your last words?
I think I said it all.
Thanks very much for your time.
All right.
Welcome.